I'm the cellist of the Artaria String Quartet based in the Twin Cities here.
I'm actually doing a fellowship with the Minnesota Orchestra right now.
So I play timpani at the orchestra, principal timpani, the 4 drums that go bum, 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 bum.
I get these long-term gigs for the theater industry where I'm playing in pit orchestras, and we'll be playing for anywhere from a month to actually the contract that I was on in March was I think it was a 6-month contract.
We were actually in the midst of celebrating Beethoven's 250th birth celebration.
I was supposed to play with Albany Symphony. I was getting ready for my Minnesota Orchestra audition.
2 weeks before the shutdown happened, I was actually in Hartford taking an audition. So I had sort of been like flying all over the place.
I literally went from the airport on March 11th at 9 a.m. to a rehearsal with the Minnesota Opera a half hour later. The next day I received an email from the opera saying that the current opera was canceled.
We had our last Minnesota Orchestra concert on March 13th, and we played for no audience.
We were supposed to meet up and play with the Minnesota Orchestra in about a month. They said that's canceled, we don't know what's gonna happen next, and everything just fell away.
It was just really scary getting those emails of, this is canceled, this is canceled, this is canceled.
When the Met closed, when Carnegie closed, when the Guthrie fired, it was like watching the dominoes fall.
When you're going at such a quick pace and turning concerts left and right over and over and teaching and going and then suddenly halting, what do you do?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we don't take a day off. And so it was weird to suddenly be like, well, what do I do?
We had this lifestyle that all of a sudden came to a grinding halt.
It was sort of like, here we go, here's a break.
I completely stopped practicing my instrument. Also, I need to go practice at the hall in order to practice the instrument. We couldn't do that. 4 big copper bowls, big drums, really loud. I live in an apartment. It would be impossible to imagine these instruments in an apartment.
I'm so used to practicing for something outside myself, for a project, for a concert, for a recording date, that practicing just for my own benefit is sort of a foreign concept.
Personally, I just haven't wanted to practice,
Of course, I had a few days where it was like, I don't see the importance in this. And I'm staring at the same walls every day and feeling colorless in my existence.
I suddenly realized that I wasn't going to be able to make it mentally, emotionally, without music as kind of an outlet. One day in the very beginning of April, I walked out on my balcony in my neighborhood in St. Paul and I played a Bach partita, and then I walked back inside and I put my violin away and I said, okay, I can do that. And from there, I created a balcony concert series for the rest of the summer. I played every night. I started hearing that people were designing their evening walks with their dogs or their partners on our block for that specific reason, and people would yell up, like, what are you doing tomorrow? And I just got this incredible feeling of both encouragement and connection.
We really feed off of the energy that we feel in the room. I think that's why rock stars love being rock stars, we definitely feel that kind of energy.
There is that in the moment concept, that very human of being on stage and that 10 seconds to start. There's that thrill kind of that you can't really get on a Facebook Live.
I have a lot of friends who are out freelancing, and when everything shut down, it's like, where's the work?
To see an empty calendar as a musician is the scariest feeling.
I completely lost all income. I work completely on commission, so if something doesn't happen, I don't get paid.
Everyone around me assumed, well, you just apply for unemployment. Just do that and then it'll be okay. And you can't, or you couldn't, until Congress passed a law during the pandemic saying that you could. As a freelance musician, as a self-contractor or an independent contractor, a lot of us, in fact, everyone that I've spoken to in my field, is getting access to some fraction of unemployment or none at all.
So many musicians were just out of luck.
Especially towards the beginning, I was really, really scared of just like going bankrupt.
The most stable job is being in an orchestra, and even they weren't able to be paid.
The Met's been closed since March, and they haven't opened up. They haven't paid their musicians. And I mentioned the Met because that's one of the premier orchestras in the world.
They're probably going to come back, but it will be very different. When you do that, your relationship is forever tarnished, forever.
It's a strange paradigm shift to think that people who we used to 10, 11 months ago thought had the best jobs in the industry, now we're like, oh gosh, what are they gonna do?
Orchestras may be viewed as an opportunity to slash wages and downplay what the orchestra in a community can do.
So many boards of so many orchestras are just decimating their artistic staff. And it makes you want to cry. It makes you want to cry.
Usually the way these nonprofits are set up, they're huge endowments, they're big-time donors who are loyal to the orchestra, and that's what we've got here is a very loyal group of donors and board members, and so very grateful for that.
I was fortunate enough with the Artaria String Quartet to have a donor that supported our concerts, monthly concerts for us.
I know that the Minnesota Opera has been, I don't even want to say surprisingly because thank goodness for them, but it has been slightly surprising to see how all about the artists they truly are, and I'm thankful to work in that environment.
I think music at the end of the day is such a people business. Not only the audience that you're performing to or the people that you're sending your music out to, but also the people you're working with. And it's really hard to do a people business when it's so hard to be around people.
I'm curious as to what the orchestra world will look like once the pandemic is over, because with all of these changes that are happening, the relevancy of orchestras is still in question, I'd say.
There is a common idea that classical music is only for a specific audience.
You know, it's seen to be kind of like for the elite or for the older generation.
It feels sort of at an existential point or a critical point.
What I was taught by my neighbor is that it is relevant and it does feel like connection, even if they don't know what they're listening to and they've never heard Brahms before.
I mean, just not playing, your Beethoven, Brahms, Mozart concerts all the time and really incorporating composers like William Grant Still.
Hey, guess what? In addition to Brahms, there's also William Grant Still and Florence Price, and they were born in the United States and they are Black.
Let's celebrate Jesse Montgomery or Trevor Weston or Adolphus Hailstork.
St. George the Chevalier, or even contemporary composers like Hannah Kendall or Eleanor Alberga.
Can I play for you that? And then have people go, oh, can you play that again? That was so beautiful. Instead of, can I hear Mozart for the umpteenth time this century?
We should be celebrating every voice, not just Beethoven's voice or Mozart's voice.
I'm seeing the same faces, and I'm seeing the same people, and I'm seeing the same jobs, and I'm seeing the same shows and the same style of shows that don't represent our society as a whole and don't represent our society as it is right now.
With the Minnesota Orchestra out here, they've been programming a person of color, and typically it's actually someone of African descent on every program that they've done since September. I think that's something that we can embrace more, because a lot of these cities in the country are not just old white people. It's, people like me.
Pivot is all about vision, is all about the next idea and willingness of your community to kind of say yes.
Just because we're not actively working or not actively performing live or not actively doing any of that stuff in the live scene doesn't mean that music isn't happening.
Relevance of music is not something I concern myself with anymore. It is relevant, and it is relevant to anyone that hears it if their ears are open. And the pandemic opened our ears.